Good evening, Littleton. It's our select board meeting for July 27th, 2026, and we are, yep, looking at minutes tonight, I'm sorry. August 10th, 2026, and as we do for every meeting, let's start by saying the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thanks, that's perfect. Apologies, having a little technical difficulties up here, so Rambach's bailing me out. So tonight, meeting started a little bit late, sorry for that. We have a joint meeting with Conservation Commission to discuss Long Lake, the docks at Long Lake. At 7 p.m., we're scheduled to have department and board updates and requests, and we'll be hearing from the town clerk on the primary election, the election warrant. At 7:05, we'll have an opportunity for public input and members' updates. 7:25, we'll be looking at appointing somebody to the Clean Lakes Committee. At 7:30, there will be select board discussion, some discussion around the zoning board of appeals. We will vote to open the warrant for the October 27th special town meeting. And there'll be some discussion about the Charter Review Committee. And then we'll review some minutes with an anticipated adjournment, which I'm not even going to read it from the agenda because it's nowhere near close and it's a little running bet. So at some point, we will adjourn when we finish our business. So first up on the agenda is, thank you, Mark, is mail, and Mr. Town Administrator.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what we have is we've got some current vacancies on some town boards and committees. Is it okay if I just summarize it? We have 18.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
We have 18 opportunities with multiple committees that are appointed by the select board. Please go on the town's website to see if any of those committees inspire you that you would like to do. We've got also, it's a joint appointment. There's one opportunity with the Board of Assessors, and there is Parks and Recreation Commission, which is also a joint appointment with the Select Board for one new member due to a resignation of a previous commission member. We also have here we've got Select Board office hours, and this will carry us through May of 27, which will varying Select Board members throughout from August 19th all the way to May 28th. And thank you very much. And those will be also notified, people will be notified with alerts off of our alert system from the town website on the office hours and which select board member will be doing that. We also, by the Town of Air Planning Board, we've got a notification of a butters public hearing notice. It is submitted by the Grossman Companies for property located at 26 and 30 Littleton Road in Air. They're proposing a demolition of the existing structures and construct a 3-story, 32-unit multifamily building, including three affordable units per the inclusionary housing bylaw. The date of the public hearing is Tuesday, May 11th at 6:15 at Air Town Hall, 1 Main Street, Air, Mass.
August 11th.
And I believe that is it. Yes, that is it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you.
Sir.
All right, so next up on the agenda is a joint meeting with the Conservation Commission. I know that we are in session, I assume you guys are in session as well?
Open as well.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Well, I think the discussion at hand is something that has been going on for a bit. So I don't know, Chase, if you want to kind of give us a synopsis or kind of State of the Union?
Yeah, what I'll try to do is very briefly lay out the nature of the issue for those who maybe haven't been through the entire discussion, as well as where the Conservation Commission got to. But let me start with why we're here to talk to you guys about this, because I think I want that sort of percolating in the back of your mind as I run through this. At issue is this parcel along Long Lake where there have been historically sort of private uses of public land. And we've sort of rolled with that for a number of years. It's gotten to the point, and I'll describe why, where we probably as a community need to come up with a comprehensive solution. But doing so, it would be a bad decision for conservation to do that in a vacuum, because there are both townwide liability considerations and there are also costs. And so it would be very easy for us to come up with what we think the best solution is technically that could run counter to your priorities for managing liability and managing finances.
That consideration.
So let me set the stage for sort of the nature of the issue. So probably, frankly, for as long as anyone can remember, the parcel essentially on the other side of Lakeshore Drive from all of the houses along Long Lake has been utilized by the public. There have been docks there for a long time, but essentially that parcel from the beach all the way around to Prouty Woods, so essentially the entirety of what you would think of as Lakeshore Drive, that parcel of land between the road and the lake has been conservation land. I think it became conservation land, Tim, 30 years ago? Something like that, give or take. And that property has historically been utilized by people who sort of live across the street as partly their property. You know, I think in their minds, they very much thought it was. And my understanding is some number of decades ago, there was even a handshake agreement. Like, you guys can use that as long as you maintain it. But what we've gotten to is the point where, notwithstanding there have been a number of public comments from folks who have utilized that parcel in that way for things like docks and storing boats and even sort of sitting areas and things like that. Notwithstanding the fact that everyone has said, oh, it was always open to the public, it started to not be handled as if it's open to the public. Things like no trespassing, keep out, private property signs, kids getting scolded for being on docks that are, at least historically, have been put in by the people who live across the street, but are very much on public land. And so the Conservation Commission, we met with you, I think, almost a year ago now, to sort of lay out the issue and lay out our approach to that and try to find solutions. And there are really three core problems that we need to find solutions to. One is the existence of the docks. One is there are also a bunch of boats that are stored along Lakeshore Drive. Stored is sort of a generous word. They're thrown in the brush. But they also serve as a way for people to get boats in the water. You know, the Conservation Commission's mission is both conservation but also passive recreation, right? So there's sort of a tension there a little bit. And then there's just the general sort of landscaping and maintenance of that property. And so as that property has sort of progressively become somewhat more private, even though it's public land, we've run into issues with access. We've run into issues with what is the right disposition of public property here. And so beginning last fall and running through the spring, we held, I think, 4 public meetings. We received something like 17 written comments, probably that many or more comments on the record as we worked through potential options for what the Conservation Commission might want to do with this property in terms of how to manage docks that have boats there, the upland sort of paddle boats that are stored there, and the maintenance of that property. What you have in your minutes was a matrix that we put together, or maybe it was just emailed to you all, but in any case, it's up on that Conservation Commission website too, where we essentially, after hearing from folks who, the range of comments was very broad. I would say more comments than not were from folks that lived right in that area and very much wanted to see docks remain and boats remain, but don't understand that to mean that there weren't comments the other way. There were comments truly the full spectrum, right? We should have docks and we should license those, and we should allow people to have motorboats that are kept there, all the way to, this should just be rewilded. Certainly the preponderance of those was to try to find some way to recognize that this property has been used in this way for a long time. No one, I want to be really clear, we don't think anyone in terms of having a dock there was doing anything wrong in the past. This is about figuring out the right plan going forward, not looking punitively and trying to scold people. So we essentially, after those 4 meetings, we took straw polls to come up with what we thought the most reasonable sort of technical solutions might be, or the most practical ones. And I'm going to break those into sort of 3 different categories. One is along managing the upland. Do we want to maintain open vistas there? Do we want to just let it grow in with trees, And I think in general, the consensus was that we didn't want to revegetate that parcel in the sense of growing up trees and sort of masking the lake. What there is an appetite for is maintaining some of those open vistas. There are also a bunch of invasive species there. So there was general support for doing that. I should note that none of these alternatives had unanimous Conservation Commission support. But how we do that, the ideal outcome would be, this is where money and liability comes in. The ideal outcome from our perspective there would be for the town to assume maintenance of that area between the road and the lake. Right now, it's been sort of a patchwork of some people across the street mow it. How do they do that, right? From a purely technical Conservation Commission perspective, consistency, working with the town to do that sort of what we think is the right way would be the ideal outcome. That also has resources tied to it. So the other alternative, and we discussed this with Town Council's office, is partnering with the butters and allowing them to maintain those portions of land. And that was generally supported, notwithstanding the fact that we do think the town maintaining it would be somewhat better and could be done more comprehensively. And to be clear, I think probably in the long run, not in the long run, in the short term, there is the need for the town to probably invest some resources in addressing some of the other issues that we have here. But we could, in principle, partner with people who live across the street, continue to mow, make sure they're not doing the things that would be particularly bad for Long Lake, right? As you all know, we spend a lot of money managing invasive species or plant growth in the lake. Well, a big part of that is actually nutrient runoff. And that buffer strip along the lake is a really, really important piece of managing that. So you can imagine cutting all of that buffer down actually just means at some point we need to put more money into managing vegetation growth in the lake. These are all linked together. So that's sort of the upland vegetation management. In terms of managing storage of we'll call them non-motorized boats, imagine kayaks and canoes and things like that. In general, the preferred outcome would be that the town, either through purchasing or through donations, installs canoe and kayak racks at select locations along the shoreline and then licenses their use. Right now, there's sort of boats scattered all over the place. How the town does that is to be determined. Exactly how many is to be determined. We did a site walk earlier today. You can imagine that one sort of rack, there's a picture up here that's actually really nice. So like the top corner there, a rack there, sort of the left by Prouty Woods, a rack there, something like that makes some sense. And those might be things that could be donated. Scouts, in fact, really nice scout project. Tom's office, after discussing this with them, Jenny sent me a picture of some in the community she lives in, like really nice boat racks, things like that. But there, what we would want to do is, right now, there's boats sort of scattered everywhere, and having distributed access to the lake means there's lots of sort of desire paths. And that, again, we get erosion, we get degradation. If we did this, we would want to have dedicated areas for sort of building out to store boats to go in there, and we would have to come up with a licensing system. The other option there that wasn't supported by a majority of the commission, but we also talked about it, sort of two ends. One, just no storage of canoes and kayaks. That's certainly on the table, right? We could just say no. Or the other option would be we designate select areas and say you can store boats on the ground here. We don't bother with the whole licensing. We just say, here, put them in this box. You know. So I think that those two are the fairly easy ones. The third piece, and then I'll sort of stop talking here and set the stage for the issues, is the docks and the motorboats. One of the things that you should know is the south of the beach, the select board controls a piece of property that has the same issue. So one of the reasons, if you remember, we came in and talked to you in September, is it does make sense to have sort of a comprehensive plan. We're technically only talking about, and conservation only controls this parcel, but this idea about docks and boats is also relevant to you. Right now, we just did a site walk. There are 5 motorboats out there on docks that have been put out there. There's historically been a few more, but you know, like that's kind of what we're talking about, is something like 7 or 8 docks in varying conditions, 5 motorboats out there. None of those docks, none of those connections have been permitted. And here, we've got to solve whether or not we as a community want docks at all. And if we want docks, do we want to allow this process of, I mean, you can see in the photos, not exactly docks in great condition. Do we want to work with the people who've been putting them in historically, license an opportunity for them to put the dock in, and license an opportunity for them to keep a boat there? That has some interesting liability concerns with it. Or alternatively, again, dollars. Do we want to pursue a pathway that involves the town putting in a certain number of docks, maybe generally in similar locations to where they are? I would say there may not be as many as you see in these red dots here, but that would involve the town potentially acquiring docks and putting them in, and then we would have to answer the question of whether or not we would be willing to license, let's say, half of that dock for someone to keep their boat there, and how we go about that licensing process. In general, the commission is very split on all of these things. I think there's a lot of uncertainty and discomfort with keeping boats there in particular. Docks a little bit less so. I will say the option that got, in general, the most support was the town acquiring new docks through either CPC money or, you know, an appropriation, installing those. But remember that comes with both the capital cost and the operation and maintenance. We wouldn't be looking at docks that are as big as what Parks and Rec has been permitted to put in. These would be like small access points and fishing points, you know, not bigger things. So that had the most support. But even among that, if we did that, we were split on whether or not there was support for licensing of motorboats adjacent to it. So I think what we're really here to discuss with you is some of the liability concerns and issues. And really fundamentally the question is, how do you divvy up, if we went down the dock pathway, how do you divvy up a public resource that is finite in a way that is fair, if we do want to allow people to have docks here or have boats there? Especially, there's only so many that I think the commission, if we entertained any at all, it would be limited. How do we divvy those up fairly? While also recognizing that people have had boats there for decades, right? People who live across the street have put these boats in. So, Sarah, I'll turn it over to you to see if I missed anything there, but I think that generally lays the groundwork for the issues.
I think, and you were very succinct with that, I think that the commission is divided on some, and so we're here for guidance. We haven't had this discussion since, I think it was March 24th, so it was refreshing for us to go back out and see the facilities today, the docks that are there and the boats that are there. So we're here really to kind of understand your thoughts and where you'd like for us to start to think about going forward as well. We have not spoken of this in quite some time, but yeah.
So, with that, I mean, we can answer lots of questions about what pathways we've gone down and what we've explored, but I think that lays the groundwork for it.
Well, I think you helped us to get a better understanding by saying that you've had 4 public meetings, and 17 written letters to the commission to kind of say on either side of the issue. So I think that any decisions that you have made to this point, I assume, have been influenced in some way or another from the input that you've gotten from the public, whether it be in person or written.
Absolutely. I think even the commission's reluctance to consider boats is, I should be more specific, motorboats, is a reflection of the comments that we've gotten. And I will note that process originated in September when we were in to see you guys. The select board asked for a robust public process, lots of opportunity for people to weigh in. So that's what we gave you. Appreciate it.
If I may, I would like to say that based on our walk today, there's been some things that have occurred out there that are really disturbing for us in terms of really blatant removal of vegetation and really people taking liberties beyond what should have ever been there. So I haven't been there in the last couple months, and it's been overwhelming to see that today.
Thanks. Anybody else from Conservation? Okay.
I think
Anything to add?
you said something about decisions, no decisions have been made. As Chase indicated, we're very much,
misspoke, Ed.
we're
Thank
very
you for
much
calling me
split on this.
What you do have is a matrix with
Yes.
straw poll results, because we
Yes.
didn't think it would be very helpful for us to just give you vibes and feelings, right? Like,
Right.
so you can understand sort of where we're at. And
It's helpful.
if that's not in your packet, I can certainly send a link. It's up on the Conservation Commission's website.
So Chuck, one thing.
Yeah, Tim.
Specifically talking about the maintenance of the property, where Chase laid out the 2 options of, does the town take over the maintenance of the property, or do we work with the abutters and have them maintain what's historically been maintained? Enforcement and oversight is a complication for us. I mean, it's just me and Lauren, right? And we have so many other things that we have to keep tabs on and do in the office. If we work with the abutters to have them maintain the area, it's difficult for us to say, all right, what's historically been maintained, unless somebody's coming to us and saying, oh, this happened over on the property. We don't really have eyes on that area too much throughout the summer. And so, you know, the area that has been maintained can get increased over time, and it would be tough for us to even know that's happening unless somebody comes to us. And so it's just, there are some challenges, exactly, resources. And I know not only resources is a challenge with us, but also with Highway Department and what they can provide to this parcel with maintenance and with installation and removal of docks as well.
Yeah, I think it's manpower and resources, it's financial resources. If the town were to assume purchasing facilities, taking it on and then purchasing whatever equipment or what have you that we would need, coming up with a use policy. And there's a lot of resources have to be poured into this in order for us to come to whatever solution it is. So, and those resources could be, if we were to say, the abutters have been doing this for this many years, and we establish, the kind of the criteria. But then again, who's policing that?
And that's one of the things we talked about. How do you enforce it?
Very
And
good.
we don't want to add more to the ongoing town budget. So those were 2 big things we talked about.
Appreciate that.
So,
Yeah, definitely open up some guys.
rather than going through individual abutters basically and negotiating with them, has there's been any discussion of going through like the neighborhood association and saying, and treating the parcel as a whole and saying the neighborhood association will maintain like you do with conservation.
I will
Trust.
tell you, with respect to the Long Lake Neighborhood Association, we have not engaged the neighborhood association as a group because different members of the neighborhood association have very different perspectives on what they would like this outcome to be. And so, although there are lots of members of the Long Lake Neighborhood Association, they haven't, let's say, spoken with a single voice. So to the extent that we've gotten like collective comments, it's been people who may be members of the Long Lake Neighborhood Association, but they have a particular perspective one way versus the other. And we've been very, I think, there's just differences of opinion there. And I think ultimately, when we do make a decision, then now we have a plan, then we can work with the neighborhood association as a collective entity, but we haven't in this decision-making process because there isn't a consistent sort of mind there.
So where I was getting at is I was wondering if you came up with the ground rules for what you would like to see on that entire parcel and said, this is what we'd like to see for maintenance, all right? You know, cutting invasive, whatever the mowing schedule, no fertilizer, blah, 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 whatever the whole is. And if you can treat it as a whole so that, like, you know, one person might have a view and another person might have bittersweet, right? If you treat it as a whole and the neighborhood association's responsible for it and you lay out what the rules are, then you can say, turn the maintenance over to them, kind of like the Conservation Trust manages your other properties. And if it fails to work out, you know, we can have, you know, the ramifications on what that is. And it might be a cleaner solution than like going through 20 abutters or whatever and saying, what are you willing to do, and negotiating with them. And
I think the challenge of that is that we're actually talking about structures as well, so the liability of structures, meaning a dock. So it's one thing to do the mowing and things like that.
Yeah, Chase laid out the three things separately. I was just doing the shoreline first.
Yep.
Right.
And that framework is exactly like, it didn't get quite as much support as the town doing it, but that, you know, the town partners with the abutters and they allow the abutters to maintain that. There's language in here, there was in one version about partnering with a community to do that and have a cohesive plan. But I do think maintenance, there are some elements of that that would still probably continue to require town investment, trees and things like that, you know. But I think those are more one-offs than mowing and, let's say, the day-to-day maintenance.
Okay.
I think that's viable.
I think that's, if you can do that, that's a preferable solution than going through a butter by a butter, right? Because then you're going to get, you only have one entity you're negotiating with rather than as property owners change, you don't have to go through this entire process.
I would imagine there'd be a challenge, though, with an association. There's going to be some members of that association who benefit greatly,
Yeah.
whereas there are other members of that association that are not along the shoreline.
So is there anything to say that a new association can't be created of direct abutters? Right.
I think that's kind of beyond us.
It is, but what I'm hearing from Mark and what I agree with is that the onus on the town to try to negotiate and keep track of these parcels piece by piece and owner by owner as they may change and as their circumstances may change isn't a small thing. And I think it needs to be taken very seriously in terms of, you know, the fact that there's going to be a lot of costs there in terms of manpower.
And one of the things that you do see, like, you know, as you walk along Lakeshore Drive, there are open vistas and then there are places where it's grown in, and that hasn't been like some strategic plan.
Right.
That's just been a reflection of this parcel has been mowed and maintained, and that parcel at one point maybe was, and then it stopped being. And so one of the things that we very much, I think, recognize is the community benefit of having some of those open vistas. And I think it really, although if you live across the street from a nice, pretty vista, that probably benefits you most. I think we very much recognize the community benefit of having that. I mean, we spent a huge amount of money as a community to buy Long Lake Park on the other side of the lake. It would be a shame for people to not be able to look across the lake and see that.
I was more worried about, I know there's like invasive, like bittersweet like crazy, and some of those that aren't maintained, and it would be nice, you know, if you came up with something like people are maintaining bittersweet throughout the Long Lake and not just in front of my house, for example, so.
I think it's viable. It would be a little bit more controlled if we lived in a world with infinite resources. You know, we do worry about people fertilizing and things like that, but I think with a consistent set of rules, that what you're describing, it got generally a fair amount of support.
Because I think, I mean, the town, like, if the town took over the maintenance of it, it would be more costly, and it probably, because it is so more costly for the town to do, it would happen less frequently, right? Like, it might get mowed twice a season rather than monthly or whatever people are expecting now. So it would be in the interest of the neighborhood association to do whatever rules we put out there, if they want to keep it more pristine than semi-rewild that the town would do, right? Maintain, so.
Well, we probably have land stewards that would, just like
Right.
we have for other parcels.
Right, that's what I'm suggesting is,
I wouldn't get caught up in the costs.
yeah.
I think the costs are probably being exaggerated. So I don't think we should get caught up in the costs. I think we should figure out what direction we want to go first, because I don't want the cost to drive this decision. I think that's the wrong way to go.
What you're laying out though, Mark, is that was the second best, and, you know, a 5-2 vote in favor of it, as opposed to 6-1 in terms of just having the town do it. Included things like invasive species management will continue to be needed, to be done by the town and/or in conjunction with partners, neighborhood association, trust, local community. It'll require some organization.
Any comments, questions?
Yeah. I guess I have a question about liability, and that's why I'm looking at our general counsel. If I go out on one of these private docks that are on public land and I get hurt, who do I sue?
So,
Town right now.
yeah, there's something called the recreational use statute, and it protects both private landowners and public landowners. If you give access to a recreational asset for free, you're immune from liability for property damage and personal injury. I would say that kind of if you created a reckless or wanton situation out there, they would probably waive your immunity. So that
Negligence.
yeah, negligence is covered, but so for instance, say we were to take control of those docks. The town said, you're gonna gift them to us and we'll now run the docks. If one of those docks was in bad shape, dangerous, and it was discoverable, and someone were hurt out there, they would sue us and we would say recreational use statute, we're protected, and they would respond that the damage to that is so obvious, you should have known and warned us about it, and we would lose the protection. So, so a couple of keys there. When money changes hands, you lose the immunity. The recreational use statute goes away, and you need to have kind of a basic understanding of the safety of the equipment that's in place that you're allowing people to access.
So if these are privately owned on public land, are we liable, or we didn't put them in? Are we liable since they're technically on our property, if they're not well maintained?
Yeah, they're on our property. We know about them. And then the question becomes, are we being so reckless in allowing the public to access those structures on our land that we would not be entitled to the immunity of the recreational use statute.
So if Chase put in a dock there and he didn't maintain it and he fell through the dock and hurt himself, he could turn around and sue the town?
Yeah, and the town would turn around and sue him back because it's his dog.
To illustrate, to bring this home to a specific, so that dock up there is probably in the 50th percentile in terms of condition and safety. There are some out there that are much better. There are some that are much, much worse.
Much worse.
But the fact that we're having this conversation, the town is now fully aware. So
Right.
we cannot, I don't think the recreational use would cover us anymore, because we are fully aware of the docks and that some of them are in bad shape and what have you. So that's part of the reason we keep pushing this.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're discussing it, and as town council, I am not conceding that we have waived any protections under the recreational use statute, but it's an important discussion to have.
Yeah.
This has been something, to your point, to our point, that's been something that's been spoken about and bandied about for a while. I don't anticipate that any of us are going to offer up a solution that's going to be the fix-all.
But then we also have to talk about the boats that are attached. There are vessels that are not necessarily boats that are attached to these docks, unregistered, kind of like houseboat.
Homebrewed boats.
Yeah.
On pontoons. They look like a lot of fun, but
So someone falls off that,
Yeah.
we've known about that for a while as well. So, and they're actively in use.
So we know we need to do something. I think all of us know that. The question now, for me anyway, is what do we do? And
Fine.
to what extent, to what extent are we willing to put more cost on the town budget? Which for me personally, that's a big factor. Cost. Because we talked about, well, okay, let's go out and buy some quality docks, and we put them in and out every year ourselves. And that's all well and good, but you've got an ongoing expense. So it may be the best option, because you know the docks will be safe, you know they're easily accessible and all that. But do we want that added cost on the town budget?
Or get them donated and then,
Kyle,
Yeah, the question going back to the maintenance, so this is conservation-owned land. So I think to what you were saying, why would land stewards, why could we not just find land stewards to take care of this land? Why would we be dependent on DPW mowing it?
I mean, I will tell you, we are struggling to maintain the properties that we already have. You know, in terms of land steward support, and that's a lot lower lift than this.
Okay. On the question of the docks in general, you said there's like half dozen-ish motorboats out there. Throwing the motorboats out for a moment, do we need or want dock access for the non-motorized boats? Or is just shoreline access good enough? Is there a reason for docks if we don't, outside of the motorboats?
there are some areas that you could have just land entry into the water. So there are a few, but we looked at some of those today, and that's feasible. But then there's also some areas that lend themselves more on a positive basis for access if you did have a shorter dock. So,
For example, the bottom left of the aerial view by Prouty, it's super mucky and things like that there. Like, that's a really popular place for people to put boats in. It might make sense to have a dock there that goes out 10 feet so people can just get in instead of wading into ankle-deep water or ankle-deep mud.
Because if you're just having the general dock discussion, I can see where the town might want to provide docks for kayak, canoe access. I can't see where the town gets into docks for a mooring system, right? That gets outrageously complicated for something, right? of management and fairness and everything else. But if you say that we need to put in some 10-foot docks to allow public access to the lake, that seems like a reasonable thing for the town to do. To the town to say, we're putting in a dock so that, Chase can tie up his pontoon boat there, that doesn't seem like a reasonable thing for us to do.
And we did explore that with Tom and Jenny. Like, there is a legal mechanism that we could build to do that through a licensing and lottery approach. But it is a complicated Rube Goldberg machine, both legally and infrastructure-wise. It could certainly be done. There are a number of folks who have boats on the lake who very much would like to see that happen, find a way to maintain the status quo, if you will, the opportunity for them to have boats. But my understanding, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, that approach would involve a lottery system. We couldn't necessarily
You can do, I think, as you're scheming, we can accomplish what you tell us to accomplish. It needs to be fair.
an application process, that where people who want a boat there have to complete an application, and sort of explain what they're going to do and how they use it, and we have criteria, but it is a Rube Goldberg machine.
The challenge is it's no longer passive recreation. And so we have to stay with our mission of conservation is passive, not active. You're talking motorized. So I think that for me, that's a very different animal when we're talking about motorized. We had a great discussion today on the walk of areas, as Chase mentioned in the beginning, to be able to have storage racks for your canoes, for your kayaks. That's really passive recreation. It allows people, whether you do a permitting system on that, but I think some of the parcels lend themselves really well for storage.
Yeah, I had a question about the storage racks. I think regardless of a decision we make about this, the storage racks should happen, and my question is, what's preventing them from happening today?
Cost.
Dollars.
But also a permitting. So you can go to many towns, many states, you just have a sticker. It's kind of like the dump sticker or your car sticker.
It's not the cost for the rack itself. That's trivial, we get it donated. It's that to put a rack there also means that we would want to harden the shoreline there, so people are going in and out in a single place, and it's a way that doesn't degrade the shoreline. So it's not just, if it was just the cost of the rack, we'd go figure it out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Let's just go build some racks.
Exactly. No, it's like, now we have to have, if we're going to tell people this is where you're going to store your boat, we think it also makes sense to tell people this is where and how you want to get into the water. Or how we want you to get into the water, because one of our big concerns is we don't want to see the degradation of the shoreline. And so now we have to build that out the right way. One of the ways of doing that is docks in some places. It's probably not necessary everywhere.
And racks aren't as easy as it sounds, because you've still got liability issues. You've got potential theft. I have racks for 10, but there are 15 people that want to put their boats there.
Right.
Okay, how do you decide who gets the 10 slots? You don't just automatically put another 5.
So what did we count, like 12 canoes, kayaks that were just down on the far end, that were just on the ground, happy as can be. So it may just be that there's a permitting process as well. You don't have to have all racks.
And what we explored with Tom is, again, a licensing approach. People, maybe they get a tag, your boat has to have a tag on it. But if we do that, we also should probably think about how we enforce it, right? Like, okay, October 1st, every year, we go around, if your boat's still there, congratulations, what do we do with it,
Right.
So every one of these things has some enforcement, some town resources,
Some cost.
someone could be in here yelling at you about how the conservation stole their boat on October 2nd,
That's what we're here for.
What's the liability to the town for any kayaks that were on a town rack? There's nothing.
I would have them sign a waiver.
Your own risk.
Boats get stolen, it's not our fault.
And nothing's locked up out there as it is right
Yeah.
now.
No.
We don't see that as being a major issue, but if we only have 20 spots, my understanding from Jenny, we could do a town-wide lottery, but you can't do, we couldn't geographically do a Long Lake neighborhood or something like that. But community people who, let's say, their boat down there, but now they can drive it down there, leave it there for the season. Maybe they have mobility challenges, but they can get their boat in and out of the water. That is a real major community benefit.
Does it have to be a raffle, or can it be just like concert tickets? We open it up on April 1st, and the first
First come,
20.
first served.
As long as it's fair.
Not, no fee.
You can charge a fee, but once you charge a fee,
Lose.
you owe them a better, like a decent rack. So if the rack were to fall on them, you've charged them a fee to use that rack, so it should be in good condition.
We have not envisioned this to be a moneymaker. To the extent that there's a licensing system, it would really just need to be there for organizational purposes.
And then,
But you still have the issue
other,
of,
yes, the other thing is, you have to make the rack accessible. Like they have kayaks 3 high, and then someone's kind of left their kayak, and the kayaks are heavy.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And canoes.
and they're heavy, and they're like, for one person sometimes it can be very difficult. So we put, there's that part of the thing too. Maybe this property is not meant for kayak access. Maybe the main purpose of this property is to keep the water clean in the lake. And maybe this whole thing is just to keep a buffer of vegetation along, and that's its main use, and that's the primary use for this property, is just to, we struggle to keep the pond clean.
Yeah.
Especially in the area with all the hills, all the runoff coming down there. Maybe we're thinking about this wrong.
We saw a lot of runoff today.
Yeah.
but we also talked about Tim and, he's only one guy. So somebody has to manage this. Someone's got to give the stickers or, I doubt the highway department's in a position to want to do that for us. And
I gotta push back on this. I don't see handing out stickers and checking once a week to see if all the boats have stickers on them as particularly onerous. I mean, high schools do it every, and gyms do it every week with lockers, right? That's not a big lift. But doesn't mean we need to do it. But I think we need to be careful about exaggerating what the obligations are here.
Having kayaked, I never had the benefit of leaving my kayak at a shoreline. I had to transport it every time I used it.
Right.
And we do have
I think
a
that's
boat
kind of
ramp.
standard. A lot of people that kayak do that. Now, if I pulled my kayak out of the Charles River and then I went to Long Lake and I brought something from the Charles River into Long Lake, that would be unfortunate. Where if we have all the kayaks only in and out of Long Lake, there's some benefit to that. But I see the benefit of us providing racks, but I just see it as a transitional exercise. Anytime I exercised with a kayak, I toted it. However I had to strap it to my roof or what have you. So I think because it's across the street from some folks' houses, and they've had the benefit of being able to use the shoreline. Not necessarily being permitted to, but not necessarily being restricted from. So I think that it's a, I don't think there's any one solution, first of all, but I think that we collectively, I keep saying we, so I'm talking about we collectively,
Yeah.
CONSCOM, Select Board, with help of council. To your point, Tom, we can come up with something. We can, whatever we decide to do, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But I don't think we know what that something is right now. And I think it's going to take a little bit more deliberation. It's going to take us doing some more research based upon what the matrix and the things that you guys have already gone through, for us to better understand that and maybe have the opportunity to have some folks give us some input. But
Yeah, I do think paddle boats, supported 5-2 by the commission to have some town-supported rack and licensing system. Again, not perfect, it's got its challenges, but it's
I wouldn't die on
it's
that
all
hill.
there.
I just, it's,
We don't
I'd
want
be
to die
okay.
anywhere.
And it is a great scout project. That would be something that I think a scout would embrace.
That's what we talked about.
Yeah, so I don't know that, and there's different ways to do the racks too. They don't necessarily have to be cubbies, they could be stand-up. There's a number of different ways that we could accomplish that, but you also don't want to block a vista.
No, but one of the things that we do think is important for the resource there is to designate places for people to go in and out.
Absolutely.
So frankly, even without racks, even if we don't have that, to have defined places, here's where you put in your kayak.
Right.
And it's, right now, that could be the beach, but I don't think only having the beach as a place to put in your kayak. Like I said, that's not how it's currently being used, right? There's, I think Sarah said, 15 or so, maybe 20 boats spread across the shoreline right now.
I think we did see some places today that would lend themselves to be able to be an entry point that's not eroding.
So people will put their kayak in, then where do they go and park their car? We don't want cars parked along that road, because then they're onto the town property. So where do people go after they put their kayak in?
That's a good point.
And
Yeah,
Carl,
absolutely.
you touched on accessibility. This is probably a question for you, Tom. Do we need to require that the docks are ADA compliant? If so, do
If we own them?
provide ADA access to those docks? If we provide ADA access to the docks, are we required to provide ADA parking?
I don't think the docks need to be ADA accessible.
And Tim, you said earlier the fishing dock that Parks and Rec is putting in will be ADA accessible. So the town will have an ADA accessible access point to the lake, even if they're not all ADA accessible formally.
I think we do still have to circle back around to the docks that are inferior, that are a liability right now. I don't think we can continue to wait to address some of this.
So,
I've
Go ahead.
got two
No,
questions. So, there must have been a reason why conservation acquired this land. We're talking a lot about boating. What was that primary reason? Because I think we're talking a lot about how to get boats in and out of the water. Then we talked about runoff and preventing runoff into Long Lake. So what is the primary reason for conservation owning that land? That'd be my first question. And then, secondly, we're talking about liability. If I were to go build a tree house in town forest, like, is someone going to stop me? I mean, we're talking about docks that have been built on public land that frankly shouldn't have been built. So those are my two questions. What would,
So to answer the first question, the primary function of this Carl hit on, right? It is a really important buffer strip to prevent sediment, right? We worry about the lake silting in. Having that buffer strip is vitally important to capturing sediment before it gets into the lake. It's also vitally important in terms of capturing nutrients and things like that to try to manage the nutrient load for the lake. So in that sense, its conservation purpose is really water quality in the lake. That said, we're talking about boats, right? We have conservation lands all over town. We certainly we build trails through them, things like that, right? So we're always trying to balance the conservation purposes with the passive recreational purposes. To your question about a treehouse, we monitor conservation restrictions, and if people even encroach on it a little bit with the shed, we make them move it. I do think, though, and sometimes that involves, lawsuits if we really have to. This is a little bit different than that, though, in that if someone went out there today to build a dock, we would say, whoa, time out, no way, right? Just like if someone went out to build a treehouse today, we would say, no way. There is a subtle difference here in that these are things that have been here, frankly, with the handshake agreement for 30 years. And I'm not saying we have to necessarily always be beholden to that, but I think we should recognize that it's a little bit different than someone just building something on a whim on conservation land. But yeah, we absolutely enforce.
We've had
all
that
the way up to
recently where
license.
people would build like deer sheds on town property, and we made them go out and remove them.
Once we know about it.
Yeah.
And we know about this one.
So Sarah, to your point, are you worried about all of the docks or the docks that are in disrepair as
I-
the immediate concern?
Right, so I come from the thought that regardless of when it was done, going forward, and Kyle brought forth a good point, I don't think, we've never allowed structures to be built. So we need to do something about creating the equal playing field for all. I don't think the docks should be there. I think that for lake health, in terms of private docks, I'd like to be able to see it under conservation control and to be very dedicated of where we can have this opportunity. So I don't. What do other commissioners thoughts on?
I agree with what you just said.
I agree
I
with Sarah.
think, yeah.
I think as much as we've been told that these are, I guess now, public docks, they're now considered public docks because people are aware of them and people have been told it's on public property. I think we want to be under a little bit more control of how they're being. My biggest concern is access. There's some of these locations that it's a pretty steep hill down to a couple of these spots. We've already seen erosion. We're seeing continued erosion. So if we can control that access, Chase pointed out a couple of those spots on the map there that lend themselves to that opportunity. And then, like Sarah said, to even this out, I'd take about some liability, some of these docks, if they, if they shouldn't be there. It's a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act right now. We've got to find a way to make it fair for everybody in town, but right now we're violating the WPA. So.
And Chapter 91.
And Chapter 91.
So one of our options is, and this is where we could use some feedback from you all, is your appetite if we were to say, go down the path of CPC funding for some docks, smaller docks with the purposes of kayak and canoe access and maybe some fishing access, that would be very different than something that people could keep a boat on. That probably fits very nicely in a CPC application for $30,000 for a couple docks. That's still
or private, donations
or donations
or
or something
fundraising
like
with that as
But
well.
that even if we got the CPC money, there's still the need to put them in and take them out, and they don't come for free, right? They also provide a major community benefit. You should understand, though, if we went down that path, we would essentially be saying no to motorboat licensing there. And I think you would probably have a lot of support on the commission if that was your opinion as well, but you'll get letters. You should just know that.
So, on the motorboats, what about like just a mooring ball and no shoreline access to it? You're getting to it through a rowboat or how swimming out to your boat.
Shoreline.
So without a harbor master, I would question viability. Who can do that?
Inspects
So
them.
there's,
Right,
we know
inspection.
docks have to follow Chapter 91 through the Commonwealth, which is a difficult process. And then mooring balls, I personally don't know how you'd be able to.
I'm just wondering if it's a reasonable compromise for the people that actually want or need to keep their, it's like, we're not supporting docks, but if, you have this
I don't
big
think we
pontoon
can-
boat
we
that you
can't.
can't keep.
We can't permit anything like that.
The people would still have to get a dinghy onto
Right.
their mooring.
And
That's
there's
their problem.
already a
That's their
boat ramp.
problem, though.
Yeah,
So
they have
if
that
you want to
access.
have a motorized boat, use the boat ramp that town already supports.
Yeah, there is
I would
a
say-
means through which.
There is a means.
Like Chuck said, there's a whole inspection thing that has to do with moorings.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
who's
It
gonna
is,
do that?
to your point, Mark, I think it is technically doable, and to Tom's point, if that's the decision, yes, that's what we
That's
absolutely
what we
want,
want
could we figure it out? Probably.
Right.
You still have technical challenges, and you also have allocation of a finite resource
Yeah.
problems,
Yeah, right.
but.
I don't think you can have more than that.
So we need some guidance on how much are you willing to cover? And whatever, almost every one of these is probably going to involve some kind of money, whether it's an initial outlay or ongoing. And
That's not the It's key.
So I'll
not-
leave it open if you guys feel as though that we should be deliberating this here and now and come up with some sort of a solution, but I'm kind of of the opinion that y'all have given us a lot to consider and a lot to review. I think we're better suited to continue this to another time. Gives us an opportunity to do a deeper dive still and, kind of discuss some of what we've discussed here tonight and,
would also
I'm sure
encourage you
they'll
to
be
do a site walk. Tim is happy to, or any of us
Yeah.
are happy to show you. I think it's
It might
really
be better to do
really
it with Tim.
valuable
Yeah,
to
I
go
think-
through all the
I think we've all gone out
shops.
there, but I think it might be, if you're willing to do it, Tim, yeah, we might want to set something up.
And one of my asks of you all, if tabling it, I think it makes a lot of sense, but to the extent that you all come up with things that you need to know and understand, right? Like a cost of docks. I didn't idly throw out $25,000 or $30,000 for a couple docks, right? Like if you guys come up with things that you need us to help you fill in the blanks for, just let Tim know. We'll try to run those
Okay,
down.
yeah, continue to collaborate, and do this right.
Just realize that we're breaking the law right now. That's the most important thing.
Oh.
As we deliberate. They're illegal.
It's fair to say we're nearing the end of the season. These docks will be coming out, what, a month and a half, whatever from
Well,
now?
some stay in year-round,
Well,
because they haven't taken them out.
that's different, and that needs to be addressed. But where I'm going with it is, we have to have something in place for the start of the new season.
I don't disagree with you.
And I would suggest that if we aren't near that by the first of the year, we're probably not there.
Yeah, I agree with that. One question I have, though, just on the general liability, I mean, is it worth sending the building commissioner out there, and are there docks that should be effectively condemned and said, they're coming out now,
Cease and desist.
regardless?
Tim, has he already gone out?
What was that,
Has-
sorry?
We actually just talked about that. Has he already gone out?
Henry has not gone out to.
I mean, I'm no dock expert, but yes.
Yeah.
So we should probably do that
Dockologist.
Yeah.
and say that these are coming out now if they're in that poor shape. To limit our
And
liability.
I think Tim
a
and
little
Lauren can walk him right through all of those.
Then you
I would-
just have to figure out who to serve.
Tom.
I wouldn't wait around, if that's what you want to do, have the town pull them out too. If, I wouldn't wait
For the resident to.
and have
remove them.
back and forth. If you're really concerned about it, get it out of there.
To be clear, I don't think the ones in worse shape are actually being utilized by anyone. I'm not sure that we even know who put them there, just because they're across the street from someone's house.
Yeah, some
doesn't
12-year-old
mean.
kid goes down there to
Right.
catch a sunfish.
And that's where the town may just need to Tom's point, pull those out.
I'm in favor of doing that
Yeah.
I mean,
in the immediate term,
You good with
and
that?
then we'll deal with the rest of them over the next few months.
Jim and Tony, can
Are
we,
we sure that the building
Can we take
inspector
care of that
has
as-
the capability of inspecting these?
Yeah,
Like,
that's-
yeah, how is he gonna be able to tell how they're anchored to the lake shore, right? Like,
Isn't that your Eric's?
I was, well, maybe Henry could provide that guidance then on who should.
yeah, I mean, if.
Because I do
not
agree, we
him-
don't know that Henry's the right person to say that
Right.
these are appropriate or should be removed.
so what we'll do is we'll look into what the appropriate way to do it is. I mean, now it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're taking some action, especially on the ones that you're saying are unsafe.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there should be expertise somewhere we can
Right.
leverage.
Yeah, and Henry should, if he's not the one, he should know who.
If Henry can't do it, then he can contract that out to someone.
Yeah, it's like a harbor master.
No,
The harbor master, so Harvard has a harbor master, so,
Westford does.
yeah, so collaboration.
Resources are there.
Exactly. And we've borrowed mutual aid from other building inspectors for different things in the past, so we can certainly make that happen.
One other administrative item, because I'm sure this will generate public comments, I would recommend that to the extent that the select board get public comments, we put those all in one place, because we've got it online, if you guys haven't seen it, where all the public comments, I think you guys have it in your email box, so you probably have seen it and read them. But where we keep all the public comments that might come in after this as well. So Jim, Tim, if you guys can just coordinate so that everything goes in one place, so that the community can stay abreast of.
Makes sense?
Yes, sir.
And my other request is Henry or his proxy go out and say, these docks need to come out, that it gets back to these two boards, that these docks are being removed, so it's not a surprise that something happened.
And I'm sure Henry has some sort of a condemned,
Yeah, template, of some sort.
something he can staple onto the dog or something like that, so that, with some sort of signage or what have you, in the interim, until we get somebody out there to remove it.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Just so he's aware that he needs to get them out and not just condemn them.
Yeah.
So he has to take action to get them taken out.
Right.
I don't want Henry in the water taking them.
Chuck will do it.
Yeah, I'll be right out there with my waders.
Okay, so you guys will
I think we're good.
take a look at it. We'll
Okay.
reconvene at a later date to
Yes.
be determined, and we'll plot a course.
Appreciate your time. Well,
Thank you.
Move to adjourn?
Yes.
Wait, are we
Oh.
talking after this though, or no? Are we-
Yes, because we have to see, so we're going to keep the meeting open because we have to see if we're going to put it on the agenda or not.
We're gonna move our meeting
Out of
the
here.
hall for
Just tell the public.
Yep. We're relocating out in the hall.
Well, actually, do you want to just stay in for a minute? Because is there anybody here that wanted to speak to this? Because we do have public comment coming up, but if there are anybody that wants to speak specific to this, I just ask that you come to the microphone, identify yourself, and just in the interest of time and brevity, that would be appreciated.
My name is Susan Silverberg, and I've lived at Aspen Road and Lake Shore for like almost 50 years. I was kind of concerned about how short a shrift was given to this gentleman's concern about parking. That corner is dangerous now. People come, it's almost a blind corner, people come down really fast. If you put anything up, you're going to have some way people to park safely. And everybody just kind of let that go. I think that's a primary thing you have to decide before you do anything about siting a dock or building a dock. Because if you create a dangerous situation, you're making it worse. Secondly, I've heard a lot of talk about siltation and the depth of the muck along the shore, and I agree with you. I've walked that shore in waders, and there are places where I sank into my waist. They are all located at storm drains. If you really want to do something to preserve the water quality and prevent more siltation, you've got to fix those storm drains. They are probably Victorian technology. They're just pipes. And if you know that neighborhood at all, it's steep hills. I can hear the water running most days down direct into the lake. No solids are interrupted, no pollutants, dissolved pollutants are interrupted. All of things that the state recommends that we do. And we have been talking about it for at least 30 years. Same way that he talks about the parking, and then poof, it just goes away. It doesn't matter what you do to preserve the shore. If you don't do something about those storm drains, the lake is done. I've seen the degradation that's happened up to now, and it's getting worse fast. So it's great to talk about the docks, and whatever you decide you want to do with that, that's great, but I got to also say that kayak racks themselves are a bit of a danger.
That's where I am.
In storms, kayaks go all over the place. I have a small rack at the base of my yard, and they fly. They're also kind of an invitation to a child who is a climber. So you've got to think about a lot of those pieces. But I really want to reiterate the parking for the safety of the neighborhood,
Siltation.
biking, et cetera. And can we please look at those storm drains? I know it's expensive, but I bet you there's federal and state money for it.
Appreciate
If
that.
somebody wanted to look.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Tim, will the lake management plan cover any of that?
I don't think so. I believe Highway had an inventory done of all the outfalls. I don't believe there's anything within our current lake management plan that we're putting it, or that we put out our RFP that addresses the outfalls.
Please, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Jim Garrity. I live at 43 Lakeshore Drive on the parcel across the street from the parcel that was discussed. I've lived there for a little over 20 years, and there is a dock in front of our property. First, before I talk about the docks, however, I just want to echo Susan's comment. All of us who live along that strip recognize that the storm drains are the principal cause of the deterioration of the lake. And if we really want to address lake quality, I swim in that lake every day, including today. The lake was treated a week or two ago. The plant material in the lake is the worst it's ever been. So treating the storm drains, that's the kind of priority I really hope we can give attention to, because that's what's critical to the quality of the lake we care most about. But I did want to also address the dock issue. I was I think it was called an associate member of the Conservation Commission during the spring, and I listened in during the very thoughtful discussions. I recused myself to avoid any appearance of a conflict of interest with regard to this matter. But I just wanted to make one comment tonight. The discussions were very thoughtful, and the options as they were outlined were, I think, well described. I did think that the description of the licensing option was maybe not fully characterized. It had a lot of support on the commission. I thought equal support with any other option. The term Rube Goldberg, I think, doesn't resonate with me, actually. I think there's a very straightforward, very simple licensing system that can be put in place. Town council, I think one of your associates, prepared a memo outlining a licensing system that seemed very straightforward. The commission has a licensing program for docks on private property that can be very easily extended to this property. And the key thing about it is, I think, there should be fees charged for those licenses, and people should apply. It should never be a lottery, because there should be applications, and the application criteria should be based on who would be a good steward for those docks, who would provide for those docks in ways that maintain the quality of the property, the quality of the water, how would people provide access. We make our dock available. There's a sign on our dock now, which was put up in response to this discussion, that says, dock open to all. We've always welcomed our neighbors. Kids come and fish, kids come and go take their paddle boards in, and I think the licenses should be awarded based on who will make the case that they will maintain the dock, they will maintain the property, they'll maintain the public access, and they will pay a fee, which can go to offset whatever, I think, modest costs would be involved in having a licensing system, particularly given the liability description the town council described. So I hope as you think about it, you won't be put off by the Rube Goldberg comment, but maybe think that there's a pretty simple licensing system that would be highly attractive to the abutters and the people who've maintained these properties for many years, but could also provide access to others who want to have similar kinds of access.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity.
Thank you.
Rob Brown's 25 Juniper Road. To address Kyle's question, my understanding is that Warren Smad back in 1925 gave the town the parcel in order to provide access to Long Lake to the property owners. So it's now changed, and now we have Wetland Protection Act and all kinds of changes, but the original gift was on that basis. And maybe it was taken over, but it was originally a gift, is my understanding. That could be researched. I just ask that among your decisions, you don't change anything. I understand the need and the action you're taking to remove dangerous liability issues. Completely get that. But for everything else, I hope that you'll have a well-thought-out solution before you say you take something away that we all know has been there for decades. And in that regard, I don't think you've fully developed all the solutions. The boat ramp is already by residents identified as being overly crowded and problematic. If you remove all the motorized boats, you're bringing more need for parking there. The off-season storage, there's discussion of the park and recreation dock. There's discussion of a second dock. Don't know where that's going, but Conscom has already allowed what's called the sail dock to be located within that parking area. If we expand to another one and another one, where are we parking? Where are people getting access? So I think parking is an issue. I agree with Susan. I think that you really need to think through the full end, and I would ask that you get your full solutions well thought out and be able to be executed before you disrupt what has been going on that we all know for decades. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rounds.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Amy Tarla Lewis at 3 Omega Way, and I don't live around the pond. I will say in the 20-odd years that I've lived here and raised, two older teenagers, getting access to the dock, at the pond and the state boat ramp can be really difficult. Park and Rec seems to utilize that boat dock a lot, and it really prevents access for other people Monday through Friday, which is pretty frustrating. And so I'm also just frustrated that people who live around the pond think that they have some sort of ownership of the pond and dock access, which they don't. It is a public resource which should be accessible to everyone in the town, because we all are paying for it. So I think it's like an access issue. I think it's an equity issue as well. And I would like to see the docks removed. I would like to see a lottery system, whether people have to pay into that system or not. I don't really care. But I think this idea that we can get homeowners to like make a promise that they're going to take care of it is just like riddled with potential problems. What happens if they get too old and they can't? What happens if they financially can't manage that property anymore? What happens if, there's a very angry divorce? Like I think there's like so many things that can go wrong in that relationship. And quite frankly, I don't understand why we would entertain a municipal and homeowner quasi-public relationship. I just think that's like bad news. I mean, we already have some concerns that the town has a flock camera at over at the Market Basket, and that's another relationship that working out. Like, are we paying for Sam Park's private security?
Let's bring it back to the matter.
So I'm just saying, like, I think it just needs to be super clean. Remove all the docks. Have a lottery system. I don't care if you pay or not, but the people who live there have the benefit of having like close access to this beautiful view, and it increases their home, which is their biggest asset. And we are all paying for it. So that's what I just wanted to say.
As the person who's the longest resident.
You mind introducing yourself and your...
My name's Alan Silverberg. I live at 2 Aspen Road in Littleton. I'm one of the houses that they show as a possibility for a dock, but it's not the town's land that they're building off. People are going to have to cut through my yard. After I speak to my attorney, we'll worry about it. But at any rate, if this group is at all interested in Long Lake, they should be reading the diagnostic feasibility study on Long Lake done in 1990 and another one done in 2000, which will outline the various things that need to be done for the lake, including the docks, including the drainage. They go through that. It's a complete study of what this town needs to do to improve the quality of Long Lake. 1990 on the diagnostic feasibility study, and 2000 the diagnostic and feasibility study.
Thank you, Mr. Silverman.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're going to move on. Oh, sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
I am Marianne Gaspari, 37 Lakeshore Drive. I would like to see the docks stay. I was sitting there thinking, why don't we just do it like a car situation? When you buy a car, you have to have it inspected like yearly or whatever, and maybe charge a fee for that. And, I don't think it's impossible to do. And I think that if they provide safe docks for the kids and everything. And I know that we have shoreline in front of us, and people come and, they do ask, and I'm like, go ahead, if they can be there. And I think it's a good thing, and I think we should have docks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to wrap up this subject matter. We're going to move on to item 3A, which is Department Board. I'm sorry, guys. Thank you very much.
We are going to relocate out to the hall for just a moment.
Item 3A is Department Board updates and requests, and looking for approval of the primary warrant. Mr. Duggan, you taking that one?
Yes, sir.
I don't see the town clerk here, so.
Mr. Chairman, let me just get there, I'm sorry.
Yep.
We have submission by the town clerk on a warrant for the September 1st, 2026 state primary. This is something that is done every election season, in which the Select Board of Littleton must sign the necessary paperwork here to cast votes in the state primary.
All right, I don't think there's any discussion of this. Is there any discussion? Good to take a motion and vote to approve it. You guys get a chance to take a look at it? You got it? All right.
Move that the select board vote to approve and sign the primary election warrant for the September 1st, 2026 primary election.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Great, thank you very much. Karen, you sign that, and we'll send it this way next. Thank you, Mr. Duggan. And next up, we have public input. So if there's anybody that would like to speak, again, just come to the podium. You already did, sorry. Nope. Sorry.
Amy Tarla Lewis at 3 Omega Way. So I have a question about the flock security camera. So I know they were turned off, and I had read the police chief's public notice they had sent out, which I really appreciate. And I guess I had a question. So there's a flock camera literally right in front of Littleton Light and Water Department. And so you're telling me a truck pulled up in front of Littleton Light and Water Department. I'm sure they have security cameras of their own because, there's a lot of town assets there. Someone went onto their telephone pole, turned it back on, and no one over there noticed?
Are you telling us this? I
guess I'm asking.
Yeah, I assume it's rhetorical because we're not the Littleton Light and Water
I
Department.
know, but I guess
I can't answer for them.
My point is can we find out from them? Like why didn't you notice that? The truck came into town, was right in front of they have security cameras there. They approved a grant that let this happen and cause this chaos in this town. Yet the truck shows up and they don't notice that there's people on their telephone poles. I guess I'm just concerned about that, right? No?
Noted. I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
They meet Thursday.
They meet on Thursday. Okay. I have another question about the orchard. Where are we in terms of the house and Jonathan and is moving to sell it? Moving to declare it surplus.
So, do you want to jump in?
I'll jump in from an update. We are looking to declare it surplus. Probably at the fall town meeting. We haven't officially decided on whether it's on the warrant there. We have to declare it surplus before we can put out any kind of RFP for it. As far as Jonathan and the Bransfield Tree Company, MDR was out in June, I believe, May or June. Matthew and I went out and toured the orchard with them. MDR gave them a raving review. We were supposed to get a report from MDR. To my knowledge, I haven't seen that report yet, so I will follow up with them on that report. Once we get the report, we've talked about having Bransfield in to just give us an update on their operations. But everything was glowing as far as MDR was concerned. They felt they didn't need to they were doing biannual inspections. I think they were going to go to annual because they were so happy with the progress of the orchard.
Okay. And so would the plan be, and I don't know if you can answer this question, that if you were to go to town meeting, ask for it to be declared surplus, the town approved it, would the RFP be written basically for Jonathan?
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Stahovic.
Rick Stahovic, Foster Street. Looking to get an update on when the cameras are going to physically be removed. I appreciate you guys sending out the notification and the police chief's update as of this afternoon. My visual inspection says that they're all still up. So is there a deadline for getting these removed?
Just nothing that we've, yeah, sure.
Thank you. There is a work order that we have a copy of that they have issued internally, the flock cameras issued those. And in terms of, and the chief is working on identifying a date in which they will come down, and he's constantly in contact with them to get that date. We have yet to hear that, but we will, again, send out another alert once we have a date in hand.
Okay. And what is the status of the contract? Has it been terminated?
That has not, that is still with town council about about canceling the contract. And town council was on vacation last week, so that is still an ongoing discussion.
Okay. So without real writing or anything confirming the timing of the cameras or the contract, what about the poles? The poles are owned by the town, by the electric company.
Which are different from the town. LELWD, they own those,
Okay.
not the town.
Did they give special authorization via attachment to have cameras attached to their poles?
We can't answer that for them.
You meet on Thursday, Greg.
Okay. Because it would seem that they should be able to revoke that use of the poles and get the cameras down. Flock does not own those poles. And if we didn't authorize them in writing with an attachment, as is contemplated in the agreement, that's a problem that we should address immediately. That's our infrastructure, and those cameras should come down. If we're waiting till Thursday, I know we can't remove the cameras. It's been said previously we can't touch the cameras. I would request that independent physical barriers be put up to block the view of these cameras. You're not touching the cameras. You can authorize DPW to put up some sort of screen or sign to block those cameras. I don't believe they've been deactivated. There's nothing in writing that says they are from Flock. You haven't produced any confirmation from Flock that they've been deactivated. Those cameras have batteries. Those batteries can be replaced. You've already recognized publicly that Flock has come to town and reactivated them already. What is to prevent them from coming into town every other day to put batteries in them?
We are at a completely different spot than we were 10 days ago in regards to any type of a communication or relationship with Flock. The chief has done a great job of identifying and been in constant contact with someone, hence the work order system.
Is it in writing?
We have a work order from them, Greg.
Can you share with us publicly?
I have a work order, absolutely, not a problem.
And is there a reason there's not a date on it?
They have other areas to address, so it is like anything, we have a work order system here for the town, and
Okay.
it gets
So
done.
then in the meantime,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to request of the select board and the town manager that you direct the DPW to put up something to block those cameras. You have the authority to do that. You're not giving me a deadline to take them down.
I'm sorry, under what authority?
The DPW doesn't report to you?
Yes, no. What authority do they have to go up there and do that? First of all, then the other thing, sir,
They're not touching the cameras.
No,
So, Greg, I think what you're proposing is something that we've seen in some reports where there's a screen
Something
set
to
in
obfuscate
front of the camera,
yeah.
separate and apart from the pole,
That's right.
separate and apart from the
That's
camera
right.
itself. Then what we've discussed so far has been things like, trash bags, like Dayton did, but
That would be on the camera. We said
that's
that you
riskier,
can't do
right?
that.
Because that's a little more, that comes a lot closer to tampering. But what you're suggesting is something that's a freestanding.
Separate. Correct.
I understand. I think we would have to have DPW take a look at each site and figure out what would be feasible before we could commit to anything.
But it has been confirmed through the chief, because of those increased communications that they have, they are not on. They are not active. And we all wholeheartedly trust the chief and any communication that he's had or anything like that. And any internal check they have determined whether they are active has come back negative.
Okay, and I could request that information in writing?
Sure.
From the chief of police?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I mean, to be frank, we have a public trust issue here on this topic.
Okay.
Given what happened since May, through the summer, to July, when the cameras were directed to be turned off, no one verified, no one called Flock. We get to the end of July, lo and behold, they're back on. That's a trust issue. We had a meeting in May. The select board directed the electric department to turn off the cameras.
They were disconnected, that is correct. and then.
No one contacted Flock to say, we've disconnected them.
That's not true.
So what, we tried to make that communication every effort. It was unilaterally by Flock that came back and reconnected it, let's say. And through the work of the chief, he was able to get a contact, and that has been an ongoing communication. So as a matter of fact, I think the trust should be coming around full circle, sir, because of the efforts with the.
There's nothing in writing. There's no
let
timeline.
me- Mr. Duggan, hold
Yes,
on. Mr. Stoic, if you could request whatever documentation you'd like to request,
Well-
you can put it to the attention of the select board and the town administrator, and I'd recommend the light and water, the electric light department as well, and you mentioned the police chief. I'd ask that you submit that in writing, and it'll be
I'm
addressed.
asking
It'll be
you right
addressed.
now, and
It'll
I'll
be
do it in
addressed
writing.
accordingly.
I'm asking for a clear timeline for those cameras to be removed.
We do not have that yet.
Then I will be seeking independent legal counsel
Okay.
to understand what remedies there are for the residents.
Yes, sir.
This is not adequate. You telling me that we have a work order with a company that unilaterally came into our town, climbed up our infrastructure, turned cameras back on with no one knowing? We're not in control here. There is a trust issue. We need to remedy it.
Yes,
The way
sir.
to remedy it now is to get the cameras down.
Yes, sir. Understood.
Thank you.
It's a work in progress. All right, any other public input? No, okay. So next up, we have item 5A, which is reappointment of Edward Collins to the Clean Lakes Committee. So, let's see, Edward here, right? Does anybody have any questions or any comments about this reappointment? Okay.
Move the select board vote to reappoint Edward Collins to the Clean Lakes Committee for a term expiring June 30th, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Kyle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins.
Yes, Mr. Collins needs to go to the town clerk and get sworn in. I'm sorry, I did skip right over member updates, so we're gonna, before we get to 6A, we're gonna jump back to member updates. Sorry. You wanna go, Kyle?
Sure,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
So in our last meeting, I discussed that I was going to meet with members of the planning board as well as a commissioner from Littleton Electric Light. We did that today here at Town Hall. We discussed that there are already multiple data centers in Littleton. And we want to be thoughtful about what we're doing with whatever bylaw we propose. So we discussed that we don't want to put undue burden on the businesses that already have data centers in town, as well as ensure that new businesses coming to town that might also need a data center, like a bank, for example, but if they're not encumbered. But we also want to protect the residents of Littleton from the myriad of issues of these hyperscale data centers. So the next steps, we're going to create an official working group to address this with members from Planning Board and Littleton Electric Light. I think it's important to know, for residents to know, that there are already actually some protections in place around electricity usage and water usage of any new buildings that go through the Board of Electric and Water. And we recognize, though, that there's also more that we can be doing to protect Littleton from these data centers, so that's what we're going to do. So next steps, we'll be creating a working group, and you'll hear more as more transpires. That's all I've got.
Was a prohibition bylaw. There's also, there's just lots of different avenues to pursue this through, including, police policy, et cetera. So
Sure.
I'm trying to work my way through our options so that when we talk, I can help guide us on that.
Thank you. Good?
Yep, thank you.
All right. I'm just going to, very briefly, attended the legislative luncheon at the senior center last week. Extremely well attended. And I just want to give a congratulations and a thank you to Nancy Levine, who was recognized for 40 years of volunteer service to our town. So thank you to our legislators and to for hosting and putting on the luncheon and serving all of our seniors and staff members, and also to Nancy for all that she's done for our town. All right, so next up, we have a discussion about the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of July 16th, 2026. This is, so on July 16th, there was a Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, and I believe, I won't make any assumptions. Has everybody had an opportunity to watch that tape or video? And there was some phone calls and emails and whatnot that came to our attention, and actually, we do have the petitioner here as well. I don't know, Mr. Long, if you want to say anything, or I can kind of just lead the discussion, however you wish to proceed.
My name is Dwight Long. I live at 363 King Street. Been a resident for almost 40 years. I purchased the property next door to me at 359 King Street approximately 4 years ago. I did write a letter, and hopefully you all saw it. I do have some other notes that I think are more succinct that I would like to present to the board. And it kind of pains me a little bit that I have to do this, but I want to do it because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm here before you tonight to say that the conduct of the chair of the zoning board, I believe, was inappropriate. The night before my meeting on the 16th, the zoning board chair showed up at my house and started questioning me about what I was doing. I was totally open, told her everything I was doing, and immediately she told me she had heartburn about the project. This is everything that's been public for well over a year. Multiple times. If she told me once, she told me 10 times she had heartburn. And I'm thinking to myself, I've spent a year, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars going through this process, and I'm dead before I even go into this meeting because the chair's here telling me she has heartburn. Every time I turn around, I have heartburn about this. You can't do this. We don't have it. And then she starts telling me I have people living in outbuildings. And I tell her I have nobody living in outbuildings. She says, you have 3 residences here already. Why would we give you a variance to turn that into a 2-family? I said, I have 1 family, 1 house right there. She says, you have somebody living in that house. You have somebody living in that residence. I said, I do not. She referenced a car in the driveway. It's my driveway, my house, I can have a car. I said, I'll take you in to prove that there's nobody living in there. I took her in, and she said, oh, this is really nice, cement floor. And she noticed a bed that I bought for my daughter that I was taking into Boston. It was a bed frame in my barn. And then she says, you have water. I said, that's a slop sink for an agricultural, it goes to a dry well. Fine. We go out, tells me she has heartburn again, she leaves. In my mind, I have no chance at the meeting that night. I go to the meeting that night, totally, she doesn't give, obviously has a bias, tells the board again that I have people living, she gives up the bunny barn, but she says in minute, I forget what the minute is, 56, she says that I'll give up the bunny barn, but you definitely have people living in the other residence with curtains. I don't have a curtain on the property. There's not one curtain on the property, and the building she was referencing has no power, no water, no septic. And this is in front of the board. I'm standing here, and she's telling me in front of the board all this misinformation. I'm in kangaroo court. I'm like, then she says he has a bed in there. Who doesn't have a bed frame in a barn or a garage? I'm dealing with hypotheticals. The only reason that I was there that night was decision, whatever the decision is for the ZBA. I just wanted a clear decision on whether I could convert my 1860 home into a two-family that was going to be harmonious with the neighborhood, which, in my mind, it's going to be much more harmonious than it is now. I think I was treated totally unfairly. I think the chair had obvious bias. I don't know why she doesn't like me. I've never done anything against her. But I would like her recused from the next hearing, which is August 20th, because all I want is the board to look at the facts of my project and give me a fair hearing and decision. That's my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Please.
It's a lot of mischaracterization there.
Come to the microphone, please, and introduce yourself and
So I found out the day before the meeting.
state your name, please.
Can you what? Oh,
State your name.
sorry, Cheryl Cowley-Hollinger, 44 Tahadawin Road. I found out the day before the hearing that I needed to chair that meeting because our chair had to recuse herself. And I didn't have time to do anything that day. The next afternoon, I did pull into 364's driveway, which is something that I usually do on a matter coming before the board. We try to go to the site to see what we're looking at. I rarely get out of the car. I didn't want to get out of the car that day. I barely know Mr. Long. I've met him once or twice before. But he was standing there in his driveway. I just pulled in so I could see the back of the building. And he asked me to get out because he wanted to show me his pasture. I'm a real estate broker, and it looked like there were two residences there. I never said anyone lived in them. I didn't say that at the meeting. I said it looked like there were two illegal residences there. And I said, gee, you know, that building's as big as the house. What if that's not a residence, what is it? He said, oh, it's the bunny barn. He said, come on, let's go on in it. I wasn't real comfortable going on in it because, well, I was attacked when I was in my 20s, and I avoid going in buildings alone with strange people I don't know well or haven't met real well before. I'm not comfortable doing it. But I went in, but I stood right inside the door. And yeah, there was a bed in there, but it was not a bed frame. It had mattresses and pillows and looked like it was ready to be laid down in. There was a sink, and it had dishes in it, and I don't know where it went. It didn't look like anyone was living there. It looked like a big dance studio. It was a room this big with doors off of it. I asked if there was a bathroom there, too. I didn't know. But I was worried as chairing the meeting that if we gave, I didn't know the legalities, and I didn't want to do wrong by the town by granting a duplex where there was already two illegal dwellings there. Now, I asked permission. I called Tom Dugan's office and James, I called Jim's office, and I asked permission to talk to Tom Harrington. And I also texted Gary Wilson and asked if I could give Tom Harrington a call because I wanted to follow procedure and do the right thing.
What response did you get from Mr. Wilson?
I got permission to talk from both of them to talk to Mr. Harrington. Gary's message was, please keep it brief, and only if you need to. And Jim said, go ahead. And so I gave Tom Harrington a call. I expressed my concerns that there were already dwellings there. And he said that what we could do is we could grant a special permit with conditions. And that if we got a continuance, then it would give him time to come up with some conditions that would keep dwellings there that would not make other dwellings legal and would protect us and the zoning board and keep things in order. I was trying to do my job. And so I went to the board and I asked, I said, gee, these are my concerns. And Mr. Long was very definite that they were not dwellings. And I did not go in the other one. I don't know. For all I know, I don't know whether the other one was a dwelling either. It just looked like they could be very easily. His house was clearly a candidate to become a duplex. The zoning bylaw says if it's not detrimental to the neighborhood that we may grant a duplex where a building that pre-exists zoning is allowed. So we can do that if we believe it's not detrimental to the neighborhood. And no one thinks it's detrimental to the neighborhood there, but I was worried about the legality of the two other buildings. Turns out I didn't know it better. It turns out what I should have done is when I saw those other buildings, gone flying down to Henry and asked Henry as zoning commissioner to please investigate and ask for continuance based on that. At the hearing, if you guys watched the hearing, we had two members that very definitively thought we should limit the scope to just that building and ignore the outbuildings. But CBA gives exceptions to zoning rules. We always look at the big picture. When someone wants to put a building right on a property line, we worry about, even though their neighbor is all gung-ho for it and likes the property, we worry about future owners of the property. We worry about being able to maintain that. Do we have enough of an offset that they could mow, they could paint their building, they could, maintain their building without going onto other people's property? We worry about the big picture of things. Does that make sense?
It does. That's relative to setbacks, and I totally get that. I've served on zoning boards in the past. But
we
just
worry-
to take it a step further, the matter that was before you
Right, so.
was relative to granting a waiver to make it a multifamily home, as I
Right.
understand it. And the line of questioning that the chair started out with, not the other members started out with, the line of questioning as you were sitting as the chair because the chair had recused herself. So as the vice chair, like I'm sitting here today because Mr. Wilson's out of town, it's typical based upon Robert's Rules of Order, for the other members to give their input and then for the chair to opine, not to drive the conversation. And I'll let you continue from there, but
We let them do their full presentation first, and I did ask board members for questions first. Maybe I was too strong in my concerns. And I even said that I thought he was a candidate. I just wanted a continuance based on my conversation with Mr. Harrington to be sure of what the ramifications were with the other dwellings, possible dwellings being there. And we had two members of the board who felt very strongly we should limit the scope to just that house. And then I and another member of the board thought, gee, we should see what Mr. Harrington can come up with or talk to the planning board and find out what their plans were, kind of thing. And we had one member who was brand new. It's his very first meeting. And so, we didn't want to deny them. I didn't want to deny them either. I just wanted to be sure of what the board was doing and understand it. Now, when Mr. Long talked to me there, he talked about building houses for his daughter, his family, maybe having a commune, a family compound, maybe he'd divide it, maybe he wouldn't. It was worrisome. And it did give me heartburn, but I didn't say it 10 times. It did give me heartburn, and I think I said that at the meeting too. It worried me what was going on there. But then I went to the planning board meeting, and the planning board is granted, the building that has the baseboard heat and the sink and the bed and all of that is going to become a house. And the planning board's granted it, so that's gone. That's not a concern. And the other two houses the planning board has granted, are over where the other building is. It looked to me like a tiny house.
it's a pony barn. I've been there when Rich Crowley owned it. It's literally a pony barn with a shed above it.
Okay. It doesn't look like it from the outside.
It's charming. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
It
it
would
could
be a
be.
great
It
little
could be. I didn't go
writer's
in it.
nook.
I just said I had concerns about it.
Okay.
So I wasn't trying to deny him. I just wanted to protect the board and the zoning bylaws. That was my goal. And since then, the planning board has granted the other three houses. The point is moot. It's no longer, I no longer have any concerns. I didn't bother to call Mr. Harrington back because we don't need, conditions on a special permit because the planning board's taking care of it already. In fact, I asked that the planning board's approved plan be sent out to all the board members ahead of time, and they've been sent out. So I'm a little chagrined to be up here. I've been on the planning board now, from the ZBA now for 15 years. And I've always tried to act in the best interests of the town and tried to help people and tried to do what's right. And we can't always give everyone everything they want the first time. We try to do what people want and try to give them what they want, but we can't always do it the first time. We can't always, and sometimes we have to ask for modifications and figure a way to, keep things safe and fair. And that's all I was trying to do. And I wasn't on his property the day before. I was on his property that afternoon and rather desperate to reach someone and, get help. And I even called when I couldn't reach anyone at first, I called the gentleman who's the chair of the Westford Board of Zoning Appeals to see what he did in cases of, because their bylaw is almost word verbatim with ours on converting pre-existing houses, and to ask what he did when there were concerns. And he has the right to go up to a 4-family. We only have the right to go up to a 2-family. But other than that, the words are almost verbatim. I asked him, did you always grant this? And he said, no. He said, sometimes we ask for continuances, sometimes we put conditions on it, sometimes we just say no. We always ask, what is the intent, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's going on in the area. We always ask those questions and look at those issues. And that's all I was trying to do. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I have a question. Let's say that the other structure did have illegal residents in it. What jurisdiction does the ZBA have over that, and what would you, if the place that,
what I should have done is
the bunny barn that had the bed in it actually did have someone living in it, what jurisdiction does the ZBA have, and why should it factor into your decision on this duplex?
Because that would be adding another residence to a single lot that already has 2 illegal residences. And we have the right to decide whether or not to add another residence. We have that right. That's, the zoning thing says we may.
If it's an illegal residence.
We should have gone to Henry Fontaine and asked him to investigate. That's what I should have done. I shouldn't have called Mr. Harrington. I should have gone the other way. I just didn't know better.
So I'm just, even if there was an illegal residence there, I don't see how you could deny that based on an illegal residence. You would have to go to Henry and say, there's an illegal residence here and has to do something, investigate that. But the other project is independent, right? I don't see how the two get conflated.
Well, the bylaw says, if in the opinion of the board, it is not detrimental to the neighborhood, it's not just the building, it involves the neighborhood, it involves the area.
So if there's an illegal residence there, how does changing a house?
It adds another residence to a property that has 2 illegal ones.
I think what Mr. Rambark is saying is if that's illegal and the course of action is taken to remove the illegality, it doesn't factor in at all. So there was a different course of action that could have been taken if, in fact, that was an illegal residence. You keep referencing 2 illegal residences, and neither one of them are residences. So, and that was stated on the film that we all watched, on your I wasn't our best moment. Cal, do you have any questions?
For the conversations that you had with council as well as the Westford ZBA individual, were the details of those conversations shared with the rest of the board, the ZBA board, before the meeting?
Not before the meeting, no, because I didn't have a way to distribute them. That was that afternoon. And also I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't send a group email. There's open meeting laws. So I talked to them during the meeting.
If I just follow up to that question. To follow up on Mr. Bupp's question, when you spoke with other parties to try to get more information for yourself, how did you present? What did you present to Mr. Harrington or to Mr., is it McKee? The Westford ZBA chair?
I forget his name. I think I
Anyway.
told you that I suspected there were other illegal residences on there, and is there a way to grant it with, and keep things safe? And he asked me what was my goal. And I said to not end up with 4 residences illegally on a piece of land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so my recollection of the conversation, it came in about 5 of 5, so it was the night of the hearing. And the question was, we're considering a special permit to turn a single family into a 2-family. And the vice chair expressed concerns that there was other, I don't remember using the word illegal, but there was other residences on the property, and how did that factor in? And I explained that, kind of given the time frame, I couldn't give her an answer, but if this was something that the board wanted to factor in, ask for a continuance so that I had an opportunity to research it.
So that was my goal, was to ask for a continuance.
Similar questioning, line of questioning with the gentleman from Westford?
Yeah. They were both very polite, very nice, tried to be helpful. And it was the 11th hour because I didn't stumble into this until that afternoon. I mean, we all try, and on our board, we all try to go to the site of the petition. We all try to look at, see what would, whatever's proposed to happen, affect the neighborhood, because our charge is, right in the zoning laws, if it's not detrimental to the neighborhood, if it's not, if, in our opinion. And so that's what I was trying to do.
There's also part of Mass General Law, Chapter 40, that states that there's if the petitioner is going to something that, I can't remember the exact language, then a butter to an abutter within 150 feet, if it's already existing in other residences that are in close proximity in the neighborhood, that
there's a setback.
Gives you the opportunity.
There's a setback if it's
Not a setback. I'm talking about, let's say there was 4 2-family houses on one side of the property in question and 2 2-family houses on the other side of the property. The zoning board of appeals can take that into consideration. And in fact, if they didn't take that into consideration, an applicant could take that to land court and argue. I can't remember the exact chapter and verse. It's Chapter 40. I can't remember what
If you
part of
watch
Chapter
the
40 it
tape,
is.
you should have seen me say many times that I thought this house was a candidate for that. I acknowledged there was a duplex beside it. I acknowledged that
street, yeah.
I was just wanted to somehow protect, that was my goal.
So, from my recollection of the meeting, you also had questions about the other part of the development going into the back, right?
It wasn't our purview. I didn't,
So why bring it up?
because the paperwork he gave us showed it. And it wasn't my asking the questions, it was other members of the board, if I remember correctly. The paperwork that he handed us showed, that Mr. Cataldo handed us, showed the rest of the development that they were proposing, showed up to 6 dwellings, I think, or I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it looked like. I never saw the letter that Mr. Long sent in, and I didn't even know this was going on till a friend of mine let me know that you guys were meeting on this tonight. I'm fairly uncomfortable with this. I just really was trying to do what I thought was correct.
All right. Any other questions of Ms. Conley? Any other questions? Thank you. Mr. Cataldo?
I'd like
Mr.
to
Long?
speak real quick. I just want to go on record and say Ms. Carly lied to you as she lied to the zoning board. There was no bed with a mattress and pillows on it in the bunny barn. I don't know why she's saying that. I welcome everybody in here to walk over there, and I'll show you exactly what it is. Same setup, hasn't changed at all. I think when she called town council and she told him, and I don't even know why we're talking about this whack-a-mole kangaroo court hypothetical stuff. None of what she said is true. None of it. Just because she walked in and saw, oh, that's an attractive little pony barn. That's an okay, I'm sorry that I take care of the property, but there's nobody living in there. And then to call town council, every month that is delayed costs me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Now, she might not care about that, but I care about that. It's totally unfair, and the way she treated me from the get-go was wrong. I don't know if it's illegal, immoral, but I definitely know it's unprofessional. And I was totally treated as a tax-paying citizen for 40 years, totally disrespected, and I deserve better, and I hope that the next ZBA meeting, I will be treated fairly. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Actually, 1 second. Did you want to say something? Okay, go ahead.
I've lived in town for 67 years, and I don't lie. And I saw what I saw, and I say what I say, and I don't lie. I didn't see the inside of the pony barn. I saw it had a front door. I saw it had steps up to the front door. I saw it had a planter next to it. It looked like a residence to me. I could be mistaken. I never said it was definitely a residence. I said that anyone was living there. I said it looked like a residence. And, 7 years ago when you were in it, it may have been different, and it may have looked different from the outside, and maybe I'm totally off whack on it, but it looked like a residence. My real estate agent said, oh, it looks like a residence. And the pony barn is bigger. He went on about the fact that the cement floor was a slab that Mr. Crowley had gotten from Sandville. It had baseboard heat, and it had a mattress and pillows, and I'm not making that up. I have no reason to. I just wouldn't.
Okay, it has no baseboard heat, it has no pillows. Please, we can all walk over there right now. This is delusional. This is crazy.
Getting off.
I want to go home.
Mr. Cataldo, if you could just wrap this up, thanks.
Board members, we don't need to cite how many years we've all lived here. We all know one another. It's a very unfortunate set of circumstances that we're at. I've worked for Mr. Long. I've known Mr. Long for many, many years. I've worked for him on this project for at least 2 years. This has been in plan. I've been in front of many boards. I sat on the Light and Water, on the Select Board. I know how Robert's Rules of Order goes. You, as the chairperson, must allow your board members to discuss it before you give your opinion. I went there on the 16th or 17th, whatever the night was, and I cited the bylaw, and I said repeatedly, we are only here to convert a single family to a two-family. And the Madam Chair continued to bring in the back of the property, which had absolutely no bearing on what we were doing. None. We only wanted to vote because we were told we had to go get the vote. So, and I have to say this because the chairman of the ZBA is a personal friend of mine in Westford. My son sits on the board of the ZBA in Westford. What Mrs. Cowley represented to him is not true. I have it in my phone as a text. I don't want to go down this road. I want to close this. I would like you all to vote to have her recused because she cannot treat Mr. Long fairly. And it is very sad that we are here to discuss this. We only went for that article, convert a single family to a two-family, which I've done in town. And we were successful with it. And it is allowed because it is by right, because it predated zoning. It wasn't a new home, it was nothing else. It's very sad that here we are tonight discussing this, and he was treated very unfairly that night. And I'm sad that we're here at this point in our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cataldo.
Do the other ZBA members want to speak, or?
Yeah, I can get that. I just want to ask one quick question. In the event that, if the other ZBA members wish to speak, I'd welcome you to come to the microphone, but if I could ask town council a question. If we were to ask Ms. Colley to recuse herself, would an alternate be able to sit in, or would Mr. Long have to go forward with whoever was sitting that evening?
So a couple of answers to that. So it's not my advice that you ask her to recuse herself. If she decides to recuse herself, that's fine, but that's not an authority that this board, I think, should exercise.
You have the authority because we are the assigning body, right?
You don't have the authority. No, what you have the authority to do is, under Chapter 40A, if you believe a ZBA member should be removed from the board for cause, you can hold a hearing. You send notice saying, we believe these are the reasons why we should remove you from the board. You then hold a hearing with notice to that member, and you can vote to remove that member from the board. And then you would appoint
From the
someone.
board entirely, not
Entirely.
for one
It's not a
hearing.
one-off.
Gotcha.
She would no longer be a ZBA member. You have that authority.
Okay.
But I don't think you have the authority to tell someone who you appointed to recuse themselves for any particular matter.
Okay, thank you.
Is that our only recourse?
That's your only recourse.
Did you want to speak?
Well, you asked whether or not.
Sorry.
John Sewell. You asked whether or not the alternates could, and both alternates were at the meeting. So by state law, or whatever, they're allowed to come in and take over because they sat through the whole meeting.
How many nights of hearing has there been?
One.
Just one.
Oh, just the one?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's fine.
Yeah, and so we have, and what I also know is next Thursday, one of the alternates can't make it. So if she's not there, there'll be four of us. But, you know, and four is enough to pass, but they have to be unanimous for four of us.
Has to be a fourth as
Yeah.
well.
Special permit has to be 4 out of 5.
Thank you.
Variance, I think it's 3 out of 5.
Ms. Gould?
This is Cheryl Gould. I am representing Mr. Long, and I recuse myself from the hearing, so this is just to inform you. I just got an email today from our admin that one alternate would not be able to make the continued meeting. So if Cheryl recuses or is recused, there's only 4 sitting voters.
Because there was one alternate that was sitting that
There
evening?
was one alternate that could have, he was sitting that evening, he could have voted at the continued hearing, but he said he's going to be out of town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
I am happy to recuse myself. It's fortuitous. You don't have to force me to. I am happy to. But as I said, all my fears and concerns were allayed by the planning board, and they're granting the plan that was in front of them. There's no longer any I no longer have any concerns or heartburn about any of this. So, and I had the plan that the planning board approved on the 8th sent out to all the board members so they could see it and realize there were no more concerns. But I'll do what you guys want me to.
Well, I think we were just advised that we can't tell you to do that, so it has to be your
You
doing.
can't force me to, but if you would prefer, I will. But on the other
I wouldn't
hand,
have suggested it if I didn't, I'm speaking for myself, not for the board. I wouldn't have suggested it, Cheryl, if I didn't feel as though Mr. Long may not get a fair hearing with
why
you
would you
sitting.
think that? I've never
I
been
watched it.
unfair to anyone.
I told you, it wasn't a good night. I didn't feel comfortable. It wasn't a good night. So,
Do the rest of you feel that way too?
I'm sorry.
I think it's you're doing a straw poll to, yeah, I think. Am I
So
right?
I'm a little confused on this. If Cheryl recuses herself, do you have enough members to still vote?
4 members, but he needs a 4/5
She has to get every
So-
vote.
So you have enough members if she does recuse herself?
Respectfully, I think you should allow the applicant to make the decision at the hearing. not open.
Yeah, whenever we have a meeting and there's not a full quorum of 5,
Right.
we allow the applicant the option of postponing it.
And you can have 5.
Or he can take his chances with 4.
Right.
But if I'm there, then there's 5.
Yeah, well,
That's-
he's just asking the question about it. I'm just
Okay.
answering.
Okay.
Can we pull the board before the vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Enough. Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
You comfortable with that?
Yep, and if anybody wants to come over and look at my bunny barn and see the bed with the not pillows on it, you're welcome to come over.
It's called the Bunny Bond because Mr. Crowley bred bunnies.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Well,
If you want to come over, Cheryl, I'll show you.
Good night. Thank you.
all right. All right, so item 6B, special town meeting. Let's open the special town meeting warrant. If you're ready, yeah. We're good with Tom, right?
You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, Tom.
Need us?
No, I'm done. No.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, is 6B, is that self-explanatory?
I
Or
think it is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think
Okay.
we, yeah. Nobody has any questions? Dates are all there. Everybody good?
Ready?
Yeah.
Move the select board vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 10, and Town Code, Section 41-1, to open the warrant for Tuesday, October 27th, 2026, special town meeting forthwith, and to close said warrant on Friday, September 11th, 2026, at noon. Said town meeting to be held at the Charles Forbes K Gymnasium, Littleton Middle School, 550 Russell Street, Littleton.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. All those in favor signify by saying
Roll
aye.
call.
Roll call vote, of course it is. Karen?
Karen's and I.
Kyle?
Kyle's and I.
Mark?
Aye.
Chuck's and I. It's unanimous. 4-0. Thank you. I already buried mine. 6C, Select Board discussion, possible vote regarding the Charter Committee's recommendations, including the potential submission of one or more related warrant articles to town meeting. Let's see, we've got multiple people that can kind of drive this bus, right?
I can start with this July 27th select board meeting. We had the Bedford town manager, Matt Hansen, as well as retired town manager Phil Ricca, Robert Mercier. They gave us their experiences with trying to put forth an entire charter. They both said it failed miserably, and they both said that the resolution was to enact the town manager by special act. This is also something that AIR did in 2018. When I reviewed the Charter Committee's recommendations, they have the multi-tier model as far as Tier 1 is the highest recommendation, then Tier 2, Tier 3, and so on. One of the things in Tier 1 is enact a town manager model. This would eliminate dotted lines of accountability, MOUs, or even unknown accountability structures, inconsistencies in personnel and procurement practices. And this is coming from the Charter Committee's recommendation packet that they sent us.
Yeah.
So I would like to pursue that, pursue moving forward with the special act. I would at least suggest it. And then, as was recommended by the town managers that were at our July 27th meeting, then start moving forward with the other pieces in the charter, such as, appointed versus elected boards. Those are my comments on this item.
Okay, thank you.
So you'd rather do a special act rather than a town charter that just had the town manager change?
I think the charter, there are other things in the charter, in the entirety of the charter, that are important. So what are you suggesting? Just do a charter with the town manager, and then as we move forward, add additional things to the charter?
I would prefer that over the special act myself. Because I think having a town charter and modifying it over time is better than doing the special act and then going back
I think
and
that-
doing the town charter.
I think that takes care of both of the items in tier one, which is town manager model and adopted charter. So if we can do that, we accomplish tier one, and then we avoid the things that the town managers told us that from their experience were more difficult to get through town meeting.
Establishing the town charter is also a special act, correct? That also has to be blessed, I thought.
It has to be blessed, but I don't think it's a special act in quite the same way.
Okay. And any changes to the charter after that also have to be special acts, I think, right?
I don't think they do.
Do you know that, Jim? If, once you have a town charter to modify it, does it have to go back to the legislature?
I'm not aware of that. They have to, a charter committee has to be reestablished. I don't know if it's a continuation from one originally. But there were, in a previous community, there were changes that were being proposed to a charter, to a town charter, and there was no conversation at all in regards to going back to the legislature.
Okay, that's good.
We should confirm that, but I think if
Yeah,
that's
we
true.
should. I think one of the intents of the charter is that the charter is only supposed to be reviewed every decade, so I just want to make sure that we don't have to, it's not a large act to add things in, like, you know, is it appointed or elected boards, for example? I don't recall.
All right, so that's something we really should be.
But I think
get confirmation on before we
Yes, sir.
act.
But it's up, I think it's up to us as a select board to, if we're going to go that route, we need to have a proposed charter.
Mhm.
So we need to.
To be voted on.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And reviewed by town council.
Or turns into a pumpkin at 9, so. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I guess my question is, do we think we can do that before fall town meeting to get it on the warrant?
Yeah, I do think, I mean, you guys have done a lot of the lifting already.
I think we can. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
I do.
confident in
I
this.
do.
So, just so I'm clear, the charter that we're talking about is basically an empty shell, other than a town manager. Okay.
Well, you're doing all the
With
tier
the-
one stuff, not the transitioning the boards.
Right.
And maybe some of the tier three stuff, depending on, the tier three is probably more a catch-all, right? Range of provisions throughout the draft, codifying current practices.
Yeah.
So that's basically documenting what we have more than,
Yeah, I think we can, to Kyle's point, I think we can craft something. I mean, in very simple terms, I think you're right, Karen, it's a
Yeah.
shell. There's gonna be some teeth to it, or some body to it, but it's primarily we're going for, to get that done.
Yeah, and it'll establish how we make changes to it in the future, which is a good thing to do.
And yeah, exactly, and what the responsibilities are of the town manager kind of
Yeah.
dictate some of the other stuff.
So-
Appointed versus,
so I will say that I'm not afraid to take the whole thing as is to town meeting and let the chips fall where they may. I understand that taking the whole thing with some of those structural changes may not be popular and will make it harder to get through. But I also am not afraid of it failing because of that. I'd rather it didn't. So if, I'm not gonna, die on the horse that, if everyone else feels that it's important to take that out, then, I'll support taking it out and work to get the best charter we can have without those changes in it. But
so that we don't
I'd like
have
to
a lot
see
of
as
work
much
after the
of,
fact, yeah.
I'd like to see as much of what the charter committee produced as possible move forward. I'm not in favor of doing just a special act, because I think that just kicks the can further down the road. But if we want to take the charter that was drafted and start removing pieces that we think are more controversial and will be harder to get through town meeting, will hold my nose and do that. But
I think we can.
Well, I think a big part of this process is going to need to be public meetings, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll have some sense of what is possible and what isn't, and what's more controversial. You know, I mean, we always think we know, and then there's usually a curveball. So I think we can also just take guidance as we're going through these public meetings and getting the public input, you know, and better understand where the pain points are. I do think that I don't want to risk some progress and meaningful progress because we decided to go for it, so to speak. I think that's and I think that's a real possibility that the whole thing goes down. So I'm not in favor of risking that. I think the town manager model is the primary, and the charter are the, you know, tier one for a reason, and so that's where we should focus our efforts. But I do think we should discuss the other things that are in the charter so that we start getting that feedback. I know you guys, you know, the charter committee went through that process too.
Yeah, we solicited.
And so we'll just let it, we'll continue that.
I think that's a pretty good course of action.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to drive it, or you want to drive it together, or?
Can I have some help?
Yeah.
Can you help?
Yeah, I'll help.
Phone friend? All right.
Yeah.
You good with that?
So, I would suggest, you know, everyone else review it and say, these are the things where you want to strike, right?
Excuse me.
Not necessarily, like, if we're saying we're not doing the appointed boards or which ones we don't want to appoint, you know, just generally say, strike this type of thing, and we can look from there to put it back together. That would be helpful. You agree with that?
Yeah, what I'll do, what I can do, if you guys are open to this, I can create a Word doc on, you know, the town's OneDrive that we can all just mark up so that we can see each other's comments and red lines and things
We
like
can't
that.
do that.
It's open
Not allowed
tomorrow.
to do that.
See? It's a question, actually. All right.
It sounded
Let's do it.
derogatory.
Yeah, it sounded like we could really collaborate there, but, so,
We can each save a version in there so that you can consolidate them easily.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Could we use somebody to? No, it's the same thing. We're just trying to work it around. Just trying to think if we
If
can
everyone
send
just
all of our
comment-
changes to one of these guys, and it's still the same thing. Same. end
If everyone
product.
just sends their comments individually back.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can
that's
merge
fine.
them
Yeah.
into one document that shows everyone's changes
Yeah.
for everyone's review.
All right.
In, probably in the next week or so. Because we're going to have to get this to town council.
I need Gary's input.
I'm sure there's nothing he'd rather be doing.
From Gibraltar.
Get everybody else's, and then there's only
Yeah.
one person left, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he's given it the once more already anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
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 Thanks, guys. Forget how big that document is.
Minutes.
We didn't have Jim's updates. You
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, those.
Where were those?
okay? Not that I want to make the meeting any longer, but
Yeah.
Doing a surprise visit.
Tell Gary we're done at 8:05.
Are they even on here?
Okay, please hold.
They're not called out
No.
on the agenda. Are we okay?
They got dropped somehow.
Probably because I wasn't going to be here. I wasn't supposed
Oh.
to, wasn't supposed to be here.
Right.
And so,
And I think you've given us your weekly updates and stuff, so I
can
think.
you just comment on the gazebo?
yeah, so
Yeah,
if
thank you.
Anything else?
as part of the update, so the gazebo, and I know there has been a lot of concern that were expressed and a lot of maybe some misinformation that is out there. So there was a complaint that the town clerk referenced regarding the handicap accessibility to it. So we have 2 ADA coordinators. We've got the building commissioner, and we also have a facilities manager. And I believe it was the building commissioner that went out there to check on it when he discovered the condition and the severity of just years of just being up.
And he put up the fence and the tape
Right,
and
and
all
then
that
we
kind of
did
stuff,
the,
yeah.
we did the caution tape, and we also did the snow fencing and everything like that. But it was clear from conversations that the level of safety, it was riddled from talking with the DPW director, riddled with termites, it was completely unsafe, it wasn't repairable. I mean, granted, the roof may have been solid, but you had 4x4 posts. Some of them weren't even on the sonotubes, whereas it should have been 6x6 posts. And then the riddled the whole base and the area was riddled with the termites. So, in the interest of public safety, I asked DPW to raise the structure, and parallel with that, in talking with Diane Quarry, of taking steps and I believe that she had called the chairwoman of the CPC that, to confirm that replacing it, building a new one that would be handicap accessible is an eligible expense, and that is something that we will work collaboratively together to present something for the October town meeting. Identify the funding sources and then schedule something for design and to build a new one.
Before the structure was raised, how many, did anybody catalog it? Did anybody?
No, sir.
Take a lot of pictures and, no?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
Okay. Anybody else on that? No.
No, that's it, sir.
And your other good news update is the speed limits?
Speed limits, yes. Thank you very much. So in communicating, in picking back up that communication with DOT to close the loop on that, thank you, Chairperson Morrison. Select Person Morrison, for that reminder. Sorry. All right, so.
Your Majesty.
Your Highness? Okay, well, let's go with that one. But it's something that, in circling back with DOT, they need to fabricate the signs. They didn't have them in stock, and we will work together in terms of getting an alert out there, whether through our social media platforms, and to let everyone know that the speed limit has changed in those two areas on Great Road and
King Street.
Thank you, King Street. And we will do that, and I will see if we have our message boards can be put up along those streets also with DPW. Actually, that DOT also did express willingness to share some of their message boards with us to help establish that.
State roads.
They're all, right. But unfortunately, they're all spoken for. They're all active in construction zones right now. But I know that we have access to a couple that we'll do. And those signs will be manufactured. They should be the end of this week, early next week.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
So do you have something to say about the gazebo, or?
Yes. I didn't know if you guys know that it was built by the Garden Club, that the Garden Club raised the money for it and deposited after it was built, deposited $10,000 with the town for its maintenance. So could that money maybe be found and used to help rebuild it? I was the Garden Club again.
Interesting.
We'll look everywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you for that information. I didn't know that. Thank you.
That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to minutes approval. You good? 7A. You want to lump them all? What are we going to do?
Are there two sets? Because I have one.
There are two sets of regular session and two sets of executive. If you need copies of the executive, I have them.
Ready when you are.
Move the select board vote to approve the meeting minutes from the select board meetings on July 27th, 2026, August 3rd, 2026. And move the select board vote to approve the executive session meeting minutes from the select board meetings on June 22nd, 2026, and July 13th, 2026.
Second?
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mark, seconded by Karen. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Littleton.